I hope you're ready for Chapter 3. Renee's journey is just beginning, and soon she will invite Anna to join her. Let's see what happens next. Renee stared at her for a minute, not really understanding her question. Of course, she had come to talk to her boy. Of course, she thought it would bring her some form of comfort. What else did they think she wanted? What else is there? Renee asked, trying not to give in to a full-blown cry. I just thought I could talk to him and know for sure he was out there. Shame rose to her cheeks, and the tears flowed to wash the color out. I don't think your boy is why you came at all, Miss Cox said as she leaned back and began to rock back and forth in her chair. She crossed her ankles and laid her hands across her belly. Of course it is, Renee erupted. She felt almost attacked by the woman's unspoken accusation. I think you know there is nothing that would come from talking to him. I think you have a different goal, one where you try to figure out how not to have this happen again. Renee didn't say a word. She only contemplated Miss Cox's words and found her correct. She knew she would feel no different no matter how many times she spoke to him. Fear and guilt would remain. He was still gone, he was still dead, and nothing would change that. If you could ask anything of us, and knowing you would get it, what would it be? Miss Cox asked. Renee smiled, thinking of a genie asking what your 3 wishes were going to be. She then remembered their story. As she recalled their power, she told them the truth. The one thing I want is the hardest to give. My greatest wish is for the fear to go away. The fear of walking a day on this earth without my daughter is overwhelming. The loss of my boy fuels my panic. You can't guarantee that though, can you? Renee looked from one to the other. She saw no smug confidence on their faces, and she knew this was beyond their scope. We could, child, but we won't. We will never dabble in the affairs of Mother Nature ever again, but we know those who will. There is no charge for their services, but there is for ours. Renee gave them a look of defeat, as finances were one thing she didn't have to offer. It's not your money we need, girl. It is but a simple kindness we require. At this, Renee's attention was piqued again. There was a prospect of protection for her baby held in front of her. There needs to be some explaining to do. You said you were from round here, didn't you? I'm sure you have heard of us Cox women all your life, right? The unholy act we brought forth in our tale to you was 3 lifetimes ago. Somehow Miss Cox's words were no surprise. Renee had no emotion about her revelation at all. Miss Cox continued, We bucked nature and defiled it to its very core. We chose to go against the very basic laws she created. When we met that day, we destroyed the lives of so many. We destroyed a mother whose only sin was her love for her son. We didn't go unpunished for the crime. We didn't only lose Ellen that day, but we lost our perceived greatness. We knew that there were forces more powerful than us in this world. The winds of death cursed us. As the life drained from the wounded mother's spirit, so did the ability for life to drain from us. Time carried us to weakness. It allowed us to become frail and hopeless, but it never gave us a reprieve. We came to discover that nothing made of this world would destroy us. We believe release will come from something other than what the vengeful nature has created, a being that can grant your request. It can give your child the gift of youth, health, and immortality. Silence fell. This required a response, but Renee had none to give. We but know a name and a location. The details we leave to him. The only thing we require is the recipient of the gift must return to us and release us from our plague. Miss Cox looked sad as she said these words. You can't mean what I think you mean. Renee stood from her, seat on the step. It's an act of kindness, really, releasing us from the prison of life and setting us free from the agony of eternal torture. Then reality dawned on Renee. She thought, this isn't true anyway, so what will it hurt to agree? She would like another lead to follow. She would love another mystery of the mountain to solve. She had to know this name. She had to have the next clue. Renee returned to her seat and asked all the important questions. Who, what, when, how, and where. To her surprise, the Cox women were not as forthcoming as they had previously been. They explained that there would be a binding contract between this mystery person and the Coxes, and then between the Coxes and Rene. If, for any reason, the Coxes and Rene and her daughter failed to uphold their bargain within 1 year of the act, neither of them would live another day. The being would come and do the deed themselves and end both Rene and her daughter for the betrayal. But Rene believed no act would occur at all, so she agreed. Miss Cox rose from her seat and retrieved a notebook, where she wrote the details of their agreement. She made 4 copies, one for Rene, one for Anna, one for themselves, and one for the mystery person. Rene signed each. At the bottom of the letter, almost like a P.S., were the words, "I, Rene Reed, am of sound mind, and I understand this contract as it is written." Rene signed all the copies again. The name and location were written on a piece of paper and folded 2 times. As if there were 20 people watching, Miss Cox handed it to Rene furtively. After slipping it into her back pocket, even Rene started to feel a little paranoid herself. A handshake from one and a hug from the other were their parting gestures. Well, that was exciting. I can't wait to get to Chapter 4. I hope you will come back again and see what happens next. Bye for now.